You know, there are only two times that you will ever have a problem in life. And I just bought this course and they dive deep into that. And I want to kind of expand on it here. And the reason for that is because in my last video, when I talk about stuck, my goodness, the feedback I got was just phenomenal. So I want to dive in. If you're feeling like there's something big that you need to have a decision on, this video is for you because when we talk about when is the only two times that you would have a problem. And the reason I'm saying that too is you may be in selling low ticket that leads to high ticket, and that low ticket that leads to high ticket. What happened there is you may be getting on a sales call and that person may be constantly having objections and saying no to your offer. And I want to kind of frame the idea behind when making a decision. When making a decision, when you're trying to level up and make a decision, what that looks like. Hey, it's your girl Sherry Summers. Welcome to our channel. So let's dive deep into what that looks like. We're talking about the only two times that you will have a problem and what that looks like. Why is that important? It is important because people stay in stall and stuck mode and don't want to move, don't want to take action. And like, oh my God, there's just so much problems I have. I don't know if I can get over on the other side. And when you think like that, there's no momentum and there's no action that is happening from that space. There's no momentum, there's no action, there's nothing happening from that space. So you're like, oh my goodness, like what is this? Like why is this happening? Right? And I want you to move. I want you to create your next move. And I want, because I know greatness cannot sit there. Greatness is not built in isolation. That's one of the things I love to say. Is not built in isolation. So I want you to move because when you move and take action and start creating magnetic message and putting your word out there to the world, the people who are called for you and called for your service can find you. But if you're at this thing where you have so much problem and you can't move, I want to help you see that and kind of create an awareness around that so you can take action. That's the whole idea behind this episode. That's the whole idea. If you're struggling with a problem, like how do I get on the other side of it? How do I get on the other side of it? Because as I said, greatness is not built in isolation. And when you're feeling stuck, it's worse. When you're feeling stuck, it's worse because you know you're called for greatness, you know you're called for better, but there's something inside of you that's just like pulling towards that. That's something inside of you, like, but I just can't move. I want to get to the other side, but my feet is planted, and I don't know what to do. So yeah, so we're gonna be talking about the only two times that you have a problem. And I know you're saying myself, Sherry, there's more than two times. No, not really. We're gonna break that down. So welcome to the space. I'm super excited for you to be here, and it's gonna be quick, a quick video for us today. So I know the process of what I go through when I'm talking to individuals, because most of the times I'm talking to them in my masterclass or in a DM. We're having a conversation where we have a conversation in on Instagram DM or something. I love to gather data from them so I can share it here because I always feel like if it's one person going through the thing, there's other people going through the same thing. So that's why I love to bring the data that I got from there in here, and I have my handy dandy notes to that, and my note is my notebook. It's a little notebook that I got. So, so when something happened, right? When something happened, when you're feeling down or you're feeling sad, there are different levels there of that sadness, and this is what the course was teaching me about, that there are different levels of the sadness, unhappiness. There are different levels that you go through. It's kind of like when people say there are different phases of when a person died, and you're going through, there are different phases of mourning. It's just the same way when there are different phases of when you're in a stuck place or when you're in a sad space. And that's why the Bible said joy come in the morning. And it's because when you're in that space, it may not seem like joy is coming. You may not see that things are going to happen. But I was watching something on Instagram, and the gentleman was talking about what do you do when you just don't feel like you're going through a hard time, and how do you pull out of that hard time? And what the gentleman said, it was more about there's no such thing as hard time. And I kind of agree with him, because he says even in the hard time, things are still working out for your good. Even in what you're going through, things are still working out for you, your good, even in that hard time. So if you're in a spot where you have to decide, right? Understand that even in the ugliest situation, things are working out for your good. And one example he used is like baking a cake. And when you're baking a cake, there are different ingredients, right? You have the sugar, you have the flour, you have the egg, you have salt, you have different things inside of that cake. Now, separate, like eating a raw flour is nasty, right? Eating salt, eating sugar on its own is eating a raw egg is nasty, right? But the idea here, even though those are yucky and mean and sad and not good together, but combined, as you go through the process of blending up that cake, of making that cake, as you go through the process, I should have bring my whiteboard in, but as you go through the process of making that cake, and you are stirring it up, and is becoming this liquid form, and you're pouring it out, and keep in mind, and it goes into that oven where there's heat, right? Where the heat rises, and you're like, oh my God, I just cannot take anymore. Right? I just cannot take anymore. And then all of a sudden, a few hours later, 45 minutes later, based on the type of cake you're making, that beautiful aroma of cake smell fill your kitchen. And you're like, oh my God, like, what was that? Like that beautiful aroma, like it's just kind of fill the room, and you're like, oh my goodness. And you say to yourself, after you grab that cake and you bite into this warm, succulent cake, you're like, oh, this was so worth it. Like, this was worth it. This was so worth it. It was worth the nastiness of the ingredients being put together, of you stirring it and becoming liquid form, and you going through the fire. It was so worth it on the other side. So even all of those things that was happening, even though it wasn't fun, we know what the outcome will be. And for that, we can have joy. So, so what does that have to do with what we're talking about today? Well, what it has to do with what we're talking about today is, if you use the process of what I just saying when it comes to making a decision, or when it comes to solving a problem, it allows you to shift your own emotions out of that problem and look at the bigger picture. It allows you to shift and just kind of look and identify the problem for what it is, right? And like, is it a big problem, or is it something that that is a huge problem, or is it something that can be solved, or is it something that can be, is it magnified because of our brain and because of the unknown? Like, what is that? What does that look like? And I wrote down here, when you are going through a problem, the first two things that you kind of look at, you can say, number one, you can don't make a decision. That's number one. You like you don't make a decision. Like, when people come to my calls, and I said to them, I said, hey, this is what I think you should be doing. This is a framework to get you to where you are. And I always say to them, you can do two things. You can, number one, you can make a decision. You cannot make a decision and procrastinate. But do understand that when you get off the phone with me, or when you get off the DM with me, you're still stuck. You're still stalling at that place. So you saying no to me is not saying no to me. You're just choosing to stay where you are, and be okay with that. Validate that. That's fine. It may not be your timing, and that's okay. But own that part, right? Own that part, that number one, you don't make a decision, is making a decision. Is making a decision. Procrastinating longer to get to the results that you say you wanted faster. So you got to understand too, when you're getting on these calls with people and they're saying no to you and you're taking that as personal, it's not personal. They're just choosing to remain where they are. It's not their time yet, and we have to honor that. There's no need to force. There's no need to push. There's no need to it is what it is, right? And then one of the other reason when it comes to the two type of problem, that was number one, you're just feeling to stay where you are, you're just making a decision to stay, to decide to procrastinate. And then number two, what she talks about, she says, you believe if you make this decision, that's number two, nothing will change. So you kind of remain hopeless. You kind of remain hopeless. Like, why am I making this decision? Because nothing is going to change. There's nothing is going to change. You kind of remain hopeless in the situation because it's not going to change. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to change. So you just kind of sit there and you just kind of like, okay, the reason I didn't move is because I just believe in myself that it's not going to change. Remember, if you've been watching my videos for a while, remember when I spoke about the idea behind the trust factor, when I say the idea behind there right now we're in a trust recession, but there's two type of trust recession happening. One is a person seeing, can they trust you and your brand and what you stand for, or can they trust themselves? So this goes back to, you believe that if you make that decision, nothing will change. So on the other side, that person says, hey, it's not just about trusting you. It's about trusting myself to do the framework, trusting myself to activate the framework. So it's also more about that. It's just trusting myself. And when you do that, so those are the only two things. Am I gonna don't make a decision and procrastinate, or I don't trust myself to do it? So you're just stalling either way. You're just stalling either way, right? So the only thing can come from a problem, the only thing can come from it is you shifting. Because right there, the not deciding and feeling like if I decide nothing's going to happen, feeling that way, feeling that feeling doesn't give you the result that you say you want, doesn't give you the six figures you want, doesn't give you the freedom lifestyle that you want, doesn't grow your business you want. Feeling that way, it doesn't do any of that stuff. It does, nothing comes from that. Now, so nothing can be built, nothing can be grown, no legacy can be planted from that. So now, shifting gears, and you're saying, okay, Sherry, well, there's no legacy, there's nothing can plan from that. Then what do I do? What do I do? So the first thing, if you have to, number one, see that even like when you're talking to your prospect on a call, you can identify with them that and don't push too much. You got to do it in a sensible manner, a business acumen manner. There's no legacy or anything that can come from that, right? There's no legacy there's nothing that can build from that space. Nothing. So you can't grow from that, from not deciding and procrastinate. So what's the next option? Ooh, thank you for accent. So the next option is to build courage. The next option is to build the courage to decide that you want better. Decide immediately, like, I want better. So this is in anything that I'm going to make a big decision that's going to transform my life. I decide that I want better. And just well, Sherry, how do I know I really decide? When you commit. When you commit. When I started, when I returned back to YouTube in a, I think it was like February 2026 when I returned back to YouTube, and I just decided that first of all, I was kind of in a space like, okay, I don't want to be stalled. I don't want to be stuck. So, and I believe if I put the work in, something's going to come from here. So I made a conscious, I built the courage to make a conscious decision to say, I'm going to decide to put my value out there in the world. And that decision is back with a commitment. That decision is back with a commitment. So once you going through the process of a situation, you're going to build the courage, and then you're going to decide. And that decision is built with a commitment. Because the other one don't suit me. So what else? What other choice do I have? And my job when I'm on these opportunity to talk to people, my job is for them to see that. My job is for them to say, not only say yes to the offer or whatever I presented to them, but understanding that the reason why you're deciding and making a commitment is the actual outcome that you want. Not a specific offer, but what the outcome comes with. So once we do that, once we make that decision, once we are there in that space, once we decide, once we're there in that space, once we're there in that space, then it's like, then we can really take a look and said, okay, all right, I decide and I commit. Guess what? And with my decision and with my commitment, it compounds. It compounds. Because when you're committed to something, that means you're doing it consistently, and consistently look different for everyone. And then that decision start compounding and compounding, like putting out these videos so it can reach you, and it naturally compounds. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over and it doesn't compound. That's what a compounding factor is. It has to compound. In other words, it has to go further and reach more people, because the algorithms start favoring you, because the algorithm know it can expect a video from you. It knows that you're going to show up. So once you get out of the phase of, I don't know, I'm not sure, and you realize that I don't know, I'm not sure, I can't decide, I'm procrastinating, I feel hopeless. Once you get out of that space, then you said, okay, I'm deciding to choose something different. And I'm going to build the courage to decide and to stay committed. Because when I do that thing, decide plus committed equals compound. It's going to literally give me the results of what. And let me just be clear. Even if you decide to stay stuck, that's also a decision, right? But nothing grow from there. So you have to decide that I'm going to transform. I'm going to change what's there. I'm going to switch. I'm going to change. I'm going to transform that. I have to decide that. And once I decide that I'm going to change that, I'm going to change all of that, then guess what? Then guess what? Magic happened. Life started taking off. Things change. Life changed after that. Just, that's it. I decide, I commit, it compounds. My work compounds. That's it. I decide to invest in myself. I do the work in that was given to me in that investment, regardless of what my emotional self is telling me. And guess what? That commitment compounds into abundance, into prosperity. Because I'm showing up, because I made a commitment to myself. And God ordained the universe to reward commitment. to reward commitment. So as we hop off here, whenever you have to have a problem, I want you to view it from this angle. Angle A is the two problems we talk about. I can don't make a decision and procrastinate, or I don't make a decision because I feel like it's going to be hopeless and nothing going to come from it. Or I can take that same decide and decide to say yes to what's on to the unknown, and say I'm willing to commit to whatever that takes, because that decision plus commitment equals compound. So I already know. I already know the principle. So if the principle makes sense, it doesn't matter what's on the other side. It doesn't matter about the other side, because the other side don't bring me joy, but this side does. Do you see how that is? Do you see how that works? My God, this was good. All right, so that's all I got for you today. It's your girl, Sherry Summers. Make sure you subscribe, make to our channel, and all that jazz, and hit the notification so you can know the next time I'm on here. Also, I would love to hear your feedback on this. I would love to hear your feedback on what you think about this episode.